Let's now wrap up our MicroKart game by adding sounds. So what we're going to do is first disable the application, increasing the application time to simulate how our scene will look like. And we are going to go in MicroKart directory, ensure that we can see sound buffers, and we're going to go under Asset, Import, and we are going to select inside the MicroKart directory that you received the kart under acceleration file. Open that up, and we are going to have our first sound buffer that is imported, and this is the one that we're going to use for the acceleration. We're going to add a sound that is constantly playing, and as I push accelerate or decelerate, I will modify the gain to have it increase or decrease accordingly. So I got my sound buffer imported. I'm going to go in the viewport by selecting it and clicking Shift-1 to edit my first render layer, then dot to focus my current selection. I am going to select my kart here, and in a similar way that I did for the ray here, I'm going to push M, and I'm going to go under Objects, Add to Render Layer, and I'm going to go on Sound Source and Positional to add a 3D positional source. With my sound source selected, I'm going to hold Shift and then click on my kart, and I'm going to push Control R to create a parent relationship. Now, selecting my sound source, I'm going to go under Object Properties and call it kart underscore acceleration. And I'm going to go in local space and reset all that back to 0 to make sure that it is well centered. And I'm going to go under sound source properties this time, and I am going to set that autoplay is true. So as soon as I click the play button to start my application, the sound source will start, and auto loop when it reaches the end, go back straight at the beginning. I am now going to connect my sound buffer by simply drag and dropping it in the asset field. And since it is a 3D positional sound, I'm going to slightly increase the reference distance, set it to 1 and 5. So I'm going to have a better feel of the sound in space. I am now going to select my kart controller. And on the kart controller code, I am going to add the following line. I am going to create a new variable here to pick my kart acceleration object, and inside the onUpdate function, I am going to paste this line that says that the sound source gain is equal to the absolute value of my current speed divided by my top acceleration, which is going to allow me to normalize basically my the gain of my kart acceleration based on my current speed. With the kart controller selected, I'm going to go under Physics, and I'm going to click Reset to put it back at the start position, and I'm going to slightly put it down, accessing the object properties. I'm going to use the Shift and drag to position my kart right on top of the track. So this is going to be my start position from now on. Next, I'm going to implement a background music. So I'm going to select my viewport and click Shift and 1. And usually what I do for background music, I pick a point that it's outside of my level. And now I'm going to say Object, Add to Render Layer, Sound Source, and Ambient. I'm going to go in my library, Asset, Import, and this time I'm going to select the Hillbilly Swing, which is a bouncy little track for our MicroKart. And with my, where's my sound source? Outliner sound source. Remove kart. Sound source, I'm going to select it. I'm going to go in Object Property. I'm going to call it Ambient Music. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to access the sound source properties, and I'm going to put the gain to be at something like 0.3. I don't want to run it at full volume, just in the background. I'm going to set autoplay to true, auto loop to true, and I am going to enable sound stream. Since we're having a long track, we're just going to simply have a few buffers that are cycling and playing our background music. So next step is to connect to the sound buffer, select the sound buffer, drag and drop it, and we are now ready to go. Last and final step before we are able to start our game, finalize our game, we are going to go under application properties and select that the startup scene is going to be MicroKart. So as soon as we push the application start button, it will automatically load our startup scene, if not already loaded, and run our game. And it will allow us to cycle like that, play and stop. The game will always restart and restart. And this is exactly the same result that you will have when you're publishing your application. When you're publishing your application, also you will have a performance gain, since the debug information of the scripts will not be present, and they will also be pre-built, so they will run faster without debug information on top of that. And all assets will be packaged in a more efficient way for reading. So you have to definitely expect a performance gain. We are in the editor now. We are simulating basically how it looked like as a standalone executable, but the final publishing product of your application will run faster. I am going to save that. And on a side note before wrapping it up, if you want to double check, we have been adding a lot of code. If you want to have the final version of the card controller, just maybe to compare your code with mine, you can go, if I select an example, the library, inside the MicroKart directory, you have a file that it's called card_controller.lua. And this contain all the final code of the card controller. And on top of that, you got a little bonus. There's also jump functionalities that have been added. So either to add a jump, check how it is done, or either to just compare your code with mine, you can take reference on that Lua file. So we have saved and we're now ready to run our application. Let's select our viewport and push spacebar for render layer view. And as I push play, we have our application that is running, our acceleration that is in 3D. And this basically concludes our MicroKart tutorial.